So this topic pops up here and there. The guys on Sweep the Rack were talking about it recently, so I thought I'd wear my STR inspired patch pirate jersey for this. I said that I'm game to go on the show and put it all out there. I'm not sure if they're interested or think a ball reviewer is honestly going to shoot them straight, so I'm just going to put it out there on my platform. I'm going to yank back the curtain, and anybody can think whatever they like. First of all, I'm not personally triggered by anything that anyone says. I have a lot of the same complaints. I started doing this to be the anti-ball reviewer because I was a pro shop guy, always been one at heart, always had the best interest of the bowlers in mind, and it drives me even more nuts now to see some of the idiots out there because it gives the good ones a bad name because we have to be associated with that stuff. I do want to set the record straight on some things too, because there's a lot of bad information, there's a lot of misinformation, and a lot of baseless, ignorant assumptions about what goes on in the staff or ball review world. Some of the assumptions are fair though, and some things are so prevalent that it seems like they have to obviously point to certain conclusions because of how consistent some of the nonsense is. The vast majority of staffers, for example, all sound the same. And here's our first truth bomb. No staffer is told or coached or incentivized or even subtly nudged to go overboard promoting everything. They're actually told the opposite because the companies hate seeing and hearing the same stuff from everybody. It's the same post. Wow, this new ball is really something special. It's clean through the fronts, revs up really strong in the mid lane, punches down lane, and throws pins everywhere. It hits like a truck, and it's really controllable. I shot 720 with it my first league set. It's definitely going to be a staple in my bag, even though I've only got 3 games on it, and it's a must-have if you're in the market for a ball. That kind of nonsense is so prevalent and so cookie cutter that it honestly seems like staffers are being told to do it or even being provided scripts and incentivized to do it because it's so consistent and predictable. They aren't, though. The companies don't like that stuff, specifically because that's how it comes across. I don't know why staffers get it in their heads that they have to do that. I think they just see other people doing it and think they need to glaze everything like a Krispy Kreme to keep their contract, which is not remotely true. The companies know that if people don't sound and seem genuine, nobody's going to listen. It might actually turn people off instead, and that's what's happened. Being on staff isn't what it used to be either. Rob and Mike had a great conversation with Carolyn Dorin-Ballard about this. You used to have to be a great bowler and know your stuff to be a staffer. Now they don't care about your bowling. They just care if you're in a pro shop or have a large social media following or are basically in a position to directly influence sales of the product. Being on staff is for some reason still seen as some kind of a career milestone. Like once you get a contract, that means you're going somewhere, but it doesn't. It doesn't mean the company believes in you. It doesn't mean they're supporting you. It means they think that you can move product. The topic is ball reviews, though, so let's get to what everybody wants to hear about, and I'm going to be brutally honest on both sides of the coin here. How I got into ball reviews was being in a pro shop. I'd been part-time in that shop for 10 years. I'd just taken it over as manager, and because I was the manager, I got offered a storm advisory contract, which obviously I accepted. It came with nothing. I got a couple of polos to wear in the shop, but other than that, no staff credit, no free balls. I couldn't even throw roto. It was storm only for the first year, so it was just a bare bones, foot in the door type of deal. I started my channel 11 years ago, and you'd be kind of surprised to see how far things have come in 10 years or how ancient, only a decade ago seems like. There weren't a whole lot of people doing ball reviews back then, but I'd always hear it from customers. I'm interested in this ball, but every video I can find is just a 500 rev rate hooking the whole lane set to rock music. Everything looks the same. Help me out. Storm had and continues to have incentives. If you make review videos, you get so much staff credit for that. If you post written reviews on ball sites like bowling.com, the ball reviews forum, so on and so forth, you get credit for that too. Now, you don't get rich working in a pro shop, especially not in the one I was in, regardless of the fact that I saved the business from closing and completely turned it around, but that's another story for a different video. But basically, I was broke and had trouble affording stuff even at staff prices. Staffers don't get free balls. Some of them get a few $100 worth of credit a year, or like if you're a B7 staffer, I think you get one of every release for free, but just from that specific company who you're on staff with. Everything else you have to buy, and stuff isn't nearly as cheap as people think it is. Without divulging privileged information, Storm stuff is triple digits. Brunswick stuff is almost triple digits, and Motive stuff is basically the same price as the pro shops pay, which is also a whole lot more than you think it is, by the way. So if you work at a pro shop or can get distributor pricing, no idea why you'd be a Motive staffer. And if you're in a shop, I'm honestly not sure why you'd be a staffer at all, because it doesn't cost much extra to have access to everything. Staffers aren't required to buy everything from every company. That's not in the contract. It's not suggested or insinuated or even mentioned. And especially with B7, it's just not possible to keep up with everything, and they know that. That's why I only do Brunswick track and hammer reviews now. However, if you're a company representative that only drills a few balls here and there, that doesn't have experience with most of the catalog and doesn't know the product, why should you continue to represent that company, right? It's kind of one of those unwritten things. If you're going to be on staff, if you're going to represent that company, you need to know the product, you need to show off the product, and you need to be basically at least a local customer service rep for interested bowlers. I got into doing ball reviews partially because of customer complaints about the videos that were out there and partially as a way to mitigate the costs. Even though I was in a shop and could drill stuff for free, even though I was storm only for the first year, triple digits for a ball once or twice a month just wasn't in the budget. Here's one kicker to add in quickly. Storm makes these incentives available for everyone, and sure, there's a lot of reviewers out there, but Storm literally has over 1,000 staffers. I think it's like 1,300 or something. And if you do all the incentives for a ball, you can basically pay for it. You pay for the next ball in Storm bucks. So why are there only dozens of reviewers out there instead of hundreds? Well, it's because even for a staffer, reviews are too time consuming and expensive when all you get out of it is a ball. Most people would rather just pay for the ball and not dick with all the review time and cost. Looking at it from the logistics, that's the major controlling factor here. The most basic of reasons that the vast majority of the reviewing population is made up of staffers or people like me or Hutch from the Hype that developed enough of a following to get sent stuff without being affiliated with the company is that the cost to return value for the reviewer just isn't there. Even when you're sent equipment, it's still a pretty raw deal on paper. Even a true independent, self-funded, one-of-a-kind reviewer like Jason Eubank still leaned hard into his merch line to help pay the bills, and he's even got his own bowling ball now that he's promoting. And this isn't shade at all, because I get it completely. I've done some very over-the-top, involved, in-depth, as much information as I can pack into anything, reviews and concepts, and I know exactly how time-consuming and expensive it is to do this, even when I get comped the balls. I just got finished paying off my drill press a couple months ago, and yes, spending 10 grand on my own drill press saved me money on time and gas and expenses over having to drive to a shop to get everything done. I've done multiple layouts, conditions, centers, testers, graphics, even used to have collection launches like when the Phase 3 came out. I put up 10 different videos at the same time that were a regular review, more in-depth look, several standalone comparisons to other balls, supplemented by ratings videos and the rated rumbles that I did, giving you quick look comparisons, blah, blah. The problem is that is diminishing returns. The work and cost and effort rose much more significantly than the return did, to the point where it was not only, it just wasn't not where it, to the point where not only was it just not feasible, it wasn't even possible. Like, I didn't physically have the time to get it all done. In addition, no matter how much you do or how much you add into a review, it's both never enough and simultaneously, well, nobody wants to watch a 30-minute ball review all at the same time. The free balls I get cost me a lot more than they would if I just bought what I wanted, because I can't use the 30 or 40 different balls I drill every year anyway. I'd be a whole lot better off if I just bought the few balls I wanted instead of literally working an extra full-time job in addition to travel, tech, and materials expenses for a bunch of stuff to get thrown a few times and then sit in a box on a shelf, not because they all suck, but because I can't drag 20 balls into league with me. The thing that pisses me off the most, though, is that not one of the people complaining will spend 40 hours a week of their own time and hundreds of dollars a month of their own money, like I do, just to be a free resource for everyone else. But for some reason, they have no problem expecting us to do that. Just think through the logistics there, or even more than that, try to do it yourself. Find 3 other people, use balls that you already have. They don't even have to be the same. Just get a group of 4 people together, talk to the center, try to get a couple different conditions out there for you, maybe even add another center in there, two or three centers. Then set up a tripod and your phone. I'm talking like full-on shoestring budget this thing. Then do surface changes, try to talk to the camera, talk to your friends, have fun with it. Then just go through the process of actually getting something accomplished. Then go back home and take all of that and try to condense it into something that's concise, coherent, interesting, and educational. Then imagine doing that 2 or 3 times a month on your own dime and your own time. See what you get back for it in return, and see the kind of comments and questions you still get left on those videos anyway. Moving on, the integrity discussion, that's what everybody's here for anyway. Reviewers are absolutely not told what they can and can't say. It's not hinted, it's not suggested, it's definitely nowhere in writing. Balls aren't sent out for reviews with the stipulation that we have to say positive things or can't say anything negative, and this is a basic rule of the exchange itself. My NDA for Brunswick basically just says don't leak the stuff before we announce it. It even goes as far to say we understand this is non-exclusive. You're free to compare our equipment to any other ball or brand on the market. Storm never told me or coached me on what to say either. I never got in trouble for being negative about something, and believe me, I was if you paid attention. But moving on. If something is a paid promotion, it means you're being paid to promote that product, you're being compensated to show that product positively, and you also have to check on something on YouTube to say that a video is featuring there is a paid promotion for that product. When you are sent a product for review, by contrast, the reviewer has free reign to say whatever they want. That's the whole idea of a review. You test it out and you give your feedback. Nobody is paid to review a bowling ball. I'm comped one release or one ball per release from Brunswick and Motive. Zach and Tobias buy everything from Storm for those videos. There's no payment. There's not even any per diem for expenses. No tech equipment like cameras, computers, or editing software provided. Even when I was with Storm, they made sure I had all the company product I needed or wanted. I could have been drowning in equipment if I'd have wanted to, but that's where it stopped. I have never been paid, reimbursed, or financially compensated or contributed to in any form or fashion from any company, from the ball companies to CoolWick and Bowler's Mart the entire time I've been doing this, and neither has anyone else that doesn't have a national professional contract like Brad and Kyle, Darren, Packy, and so on and so forth. Well, but hold on, companies won't send you stuff if you bash it all, and then you won't be able to make videos anymore. You promise? You mean I can go back to having evenings and weekends free? You mean I can actually go golfing and fire up the smoker for football instead of having a game up in the background on my laptop that's back there behind me that I'm really not even paying attention to while I'm editing videos all weekend, every weekend? Sunday is filming day. I miss the noon games every single week, and then I spend the rest of the day downloading and chopping up footage. Sundays aren't for football. Sundays are for filming and editing right up until bedtime, and then I have a 5:30 a.m. alarm to get up for my real job on Monday. When it comes to the equipment and the arguments people make, the hypocrisy is what gets me. Everyone keeps saying everything's coming out too fast and it's all the same anyway. Bowling tech hasn't gone anywhere in 10 or 15 years. Okay, so if that's true, don't you think that they've figured out by now how to make good equipment? You 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 don't think that they've seen what's popular or what's not, and that they won't just consistently put out good stuff? So you really think some dog shit ball is going to be greenlit and released to the public? Companies that are investing thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on creating a product and mass producing it and marketing it aren't just going to casually send some piece of junk through R&D and put it out there for some random reviewer to finally catch it and go, oh, wait a second here, this ball sucks. They're trying to scam you on this one. I'd have trouble trusting a reviewer that throws a ball out of the box for one single game and then says this ball's great or this ball sucks. Some balls will naturally have more specific uses. Some will be more all-purpose or general use, so on and so forth. But for some reason, people expect that every single ball release should look just fine for their game on their regular house shot, and if it doesn't, it's dog shit. So channels that just throw 10 shots with a ball and say a ball is good or bad concern me because it's subjective. Apparently it's okay to do that for a video and shit talk something that doesn't look great. But if a customer buys a ball from you and goes out and does the exact same thing and comes back in complaining, you're going to all of a sudden be the troubleshooting pro shop guy. Or same scenario, if you have a channel and somebody buys a ball on your recommendation and it sucks for them after you said it was good, then they come to you for help. Then it's like, oh, hey, well, let's go out and take a look. Where were you standing? How were you throwing it? Maybe the surface isn't right. Maybe it's not for the fresh, so on and so forth. If you go to all these different links to correct or fix it for the customer or a viewer when they have problems, but are at the same time comfortable throwing a game or less with a ball for a review and declaring it's awful without making any kind of adjustments, that's just wrong. It's inaccurate, and it's just as bad as somebody putting a ball up for sale after throwing it for 6 frames. Don't be that kind of idiot, but complain about ball reviewers. Don't want to hear it. Everybody wants to say, well, if I had the money and the time, I'd start my own review channel and I'd tell the truth. No, you wouldn't, because here's the story on that. For some reason, someone is apparently only being honest when they're trash talking something. Apparently, no reviewer that's actually being honest should ever match up with anything and love it. That's not allowed. They don't have to know what they're talking about or be right about anything or be accurate, just as long as they're dogging something. That's a high quality, honest reviewing right there. As soon as they love something and rave about it, they're right back in the doghouse. So let's say that Rob won the lottery and started up Brooklyn Rob's Honest Ball Reviews, a service to the bowling public, and jumps through all the hoops I mentioned earlier with actually getting through the review process, getting with the center, getting fresh conditions, getting quiet lane time away from the general public, blah blah. Let's move on to delivering that. You could make the best, most informative, most honest videos ever, but if you can't get people to click on them, nobody will see them. You have to attract people's attention through thumbnails and video titles. So find any video from Mr. Beast talking about working the YouTube algorithm and how him and his friends crack the code. If you spend all that time and all that money making a great, honest, accurate video that's beneficial to the public that you really want them to see, you have to jump through the YouTube hoops to get the algorithm to pick it up and promote it. It's an absolute must. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and money. Next, you can't put the word honest in your channel name and any of your titles or on your thumbnails because nobody's going to buy it. The first thing I think of when I see the word honest is that it's clickbait. It's like the Tommy Boy line about the warranty on the box. If I'm making a good, honest video, I don't need to go out of my way to preach about it or call attention to it because it should just be assumed. And if somebody feels the need to constantly rant about how honest and unbiased they are, that means they're feeling the heat, they're putting words and thoughts in people's heads, or assuming that you're going to come into that video in a negative headspace. Sorry, this looks different, but I had a technical issue and had to re-record this little section here. But anyway, so if they're putting words and thoughts in people's heads or assuming that you're going to come into that video in a negative headspace, they're going on the defensive right from the jump. That makes me wonder, okay, what are you hiding? What are you trying to compensate for? And if you're going this far out of your way to prattle on about it, am I just going to end up watching an honest and unbiased piece of shit? That's marketing and advertising and clickbait, though, because you're intentionally trying to use or work an angle or draw traffic or lure in an audience, whether it's true or not. Now, does it suck that people think that they have to do that because the assumption is out there that ball reviewers and staffers are just shills and mouthpieces for the companies just trying to move product? Here's the thing, though. Ball reviewers aren't trying to sell you anything because we get nothing out of it. We just want you to watch the videos. That's the only thing that does anything for us. Pro shops are the ones that are actually trying to sell you products because that's how they make their living and stay in business. I don't care what you buy or if you buy anything. It doesn't do me any good. So why pro shops get the respect and reviewers get the shade is wild to me. Sure, there are bad reviewers, just like there are bad pro shops. Some people are just in it for the clicks and the traffic, and some pro shops are just trying to get money in the register, and you're just a number on a report somewhere. Now, I've felt the pressure too. I've felt like I needed to go out of my way to say, hey, wait, don't just lump me in with all these other idiots just because I review bowling balls. And if Rob were to start doing it, it'd be the exact same way for him. Doesn't matter what he says, does, or anything. He's a ball reviewer now. And even if he's not affiliated with anybody, nobody's sending him anything to review, he's still running a channel that he's trying to get people to watch. And the second he says one positive word about anything, whether it's legitimate or not, there will be suspicions and accusations, even in directions you may not expect. For example, Hammer Effect is a prime example. One of the worst balls, or maybe the worst ball I've thrown in years, one of the worst matchups I've had in a while. But if I would have spent the entire review trashing it, all of a sudden, I'm suspect. The Effect was the ball of the year for a lot of people last year, and it was incredibly popular. I knew it was going to be popular, even though it didn't look good for me. So if I would have just trashed it, that would naturally call into question if I even know what I'm doing when most other reviewers liked it and it was super popular, but I'm the hipster trashing it so that I can prove how honest and unbiased I am. Just because something does or doesn't match up with my game really has no bearing on the review. I'm supposed to describe what it does, how it acts, and where it fits, and let you decide whether it's something that looks good to you or would be something you need to look at. Now, I think that opinion is an important part, though, to a certain degree, and that's something I'm trying to figure out how to integrate more because most of the time people will watch someone's videos because they understand what they say or how they put things. They get a good idea of what a ball is going to do, and they develop a relationship there. Now, if the viewer tends to like balls the reviewer does and doesn't get along with balls the reviewer doesn't, opinion is then an important factor. Generally speaking, though, I also don't want to say a ball is bad just because it's not the greatest for me on what I'm bowling on and have that talk somebody out of a ball that would be really good for their game or their conditions. Honesty and integrity is important, but accuracy is perhaps the most important factor because that's what people end up trusting the most. If I don't give people accurate information, they're ultimately going to move on no matter how honest or unbiased I claim to be. Well, but no matter how honest or unbiased or accurate you are, you're still pushing and promoting equipment for the manufacturers. Yeah, we kind of are, but here's the deal. You need equipment to play the game. You're going to buy bowling balls, you're going to buy shoes and bags and backpacks and everything else. Would you rather have some kind of look at the stuff that you're spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on or not? You don't have to listen to the reviewer. You can hit mute and watch the ball roll and decide for yourself what it looks like. If you don't like a certain channel, don't keep watching the videos and keep complaining. Watch something else. Not every channel can be everything for everyone, and believe me, I've tried. All I'm trying to do is be a pro shop resource. There are hoops to jump through both directions. I need to put out a decent product so that you'll watch the videos and be informed enough that the companies will want to keep sending me equipment to review so that you can keep watching the videos and being informed. If I'm just soullessly trying to farm views and not providing anything to you, you're not going to watch. And if you don't watch, there's no reason for the companies to send me equipment because it's not worth it to them. On the other side, if you complain about hype machines and clickbait, but only click on the clickbait, what does that tell the reviewers? I try to make sure my thumbnails look good and my titles are catchy and clever, but I've been losing for years to over-the-top clickbaity thumbnails and titles. So what's that honesty and integrity good for? You whine that nobody's honest when all you ever do is click on the bait, so why would anyone want to be honest when all it does is hurt their channel and waste their time? People also see what they want to see and hear what they want to hear too. I don't know how many times I put a video together for a ball that absolutely turns sideways, and I'll still have people saying, wow, that looks really smooth and controllable. And the same thing the other direction. I can have the smoothest ball I've ever thrown in a video and people will still say, wow, that thing really moves down lane. This is also a placebo effect kind of thing. I can tell you whatever I want to tell you about a ball, whether it's true or not, and you'll either think you saw it because I said it, or you'll think the opposite because you think I'm just a company shill trying to move product. I've tried in the past to break down certain things during a ball review, offer some explanations about lane conditions, layouts, core numbers, so on and so forth, but all it did was consistently bog down the reviews. A ball review should be about the ball, not bowling 101. Any other review for anything else that you watch, you're expected to come in with a certain knowledge base. If you're watching a review for a camera or something and they throw a bunch of terms at you that you're not familiar with, I think a lot of people would naturally pause the video and look up what aperture is or shutter speed, so on and so forth, or they've already done the research and understand what they're hearing. For some reason, though, in reviews, I don't know what this means. I don't quite understand layouts or cores, so I don't understand half of what you're talking about, so this video is worthless to me. I've made plenty of instructional videos. I've now done several videos recently breaking down terminology that everybody said they really wanted, but that no one really ended up caring about. And I've come to the decision that I just can't compromise a technical review on something that's naturally complicated by oversaturating it. J.R. Raymond is famous for keeping things simple, and there's a lot of merit in doing that because bowling isn't done on paper and bowling isn't mathematical. The more people try to lock it down, the harder of a time they have actually understanding it because it doesn't always work out the way it should. So he's like, let's just ignore what the ball is supposed to be on paper and see what it actually is and what it actually does. However, he also gets crucified for keeping it too simple, while I've been criticized for being too technical. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way. I think they're both valuable, and it depends on what kind of a person you are or what you want out of a video. Reviewing bowling balls is also like reviewing a golf club or a softball bat or even a camera to a certain extent too. Even though you can see a ball rolling down a lane, they all go down the lane and hook. Balls that feel very different when you're throwing them ultimately look a lot more similar on video than they feel. So there's another exercise for you to try. Go get some video of throwing a bunch of different balls and then put it together, and doing it on a house shot is a great way to test this out and get the idea, because everybody's like, well, people bowl on house shots, so why would you test balls on something else? You'll feel a lot of difference in between something like an Ion Max and a Hustle Earth or a Hustle X-Ray, but I guarantee you'll be able to make both of them work from Third Arrow, and then you look at them on video and see what happens. Two balls that are miles away from each other on paper and that you have slotted in very different places in your bag really don't look that different on video. There's a lot of things that you can feel while hitting a golf club or a softball bat that you'll never be able to see on video, or that won't be represented well on video, that the reviewer has to describe to you, or that you would have to describe if you were the one doing it. And if you're watching a camera review and they're talking about how nice this mode or feature looks at 4K or 8K and 120 FPS, and you're watching it on YouTube at 720p at 30 FPS, you're not going to see any of it. You need to go swing that club or hit that bat or use that camera to really fully understand what you're dealing with. And unfortunately, in bowling, that's where the kicker is. You can't cheaply or easily try it before you buy it with bowling balls. And that's why people want more out of ball reviews. So it's a very fair desire. You should also expect us to actually test the ball. This means getting it a little too far out sometimes to feel out how well it recovers, or tugging it a bit to see how well it holds. That's also part of figuring out the shot shape and where it wants to play. Too many people will say, well, I can't tell what the ball's doing when they're just spraying it around all over the place. But then when you have somebody better and more accurate bowling, they'll say, well, I can't throw it like that. They make everything look good. So how am I supposed to tell what it would do for somebody like me? Bowling balls don't strike on every shot. I want to see some misses. So then you get a more average bowler out there, and we're right back to, well, how am I supposed to tell what the ball's doing when they can't throw it the same way twice? Testing means testing, and I've been in testing and inspection and data for a decade and a half now, in everything from a lab running the test myself to being out in the field to analyzing the data in the office. And you have to do a little bit of everything with something to really feel it out. So we're going to throw some good shots, some bad shots, and move all around the lane, because that's the point of a review, or it should be. The main key issue has nothing to do with anything. It's the fact that bowling has such an impossibly large amount of variables that you will only know exactly what a ball is going to do for you when you drill it. There is no amount of information, video, testers, layout, surfaces, centers, or conditions stuffed into a video that will ever truly get the job done. And beyond that, the more technically complete a video is, the longer it is, the heavier it is, and ultimately the less approachable it is. The learning curve is huge, and unfortunately, you have to put in the time if you truly want to get the most out of a ball review. And the more you know, the less you need out of a video. I can get everything that I need out of a video watching 4 to 5 shots with the audio off. Doesn't matter what side of the lane a bowler's on. It doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter what they're bowling on, what the layout is. If they bowl like me or not, none of that matters, because I know what I'm looking for and I know what I'm seeing. I know that the more complicated or informative someone wants a video, the less likely they are to understand and the less likely they are to watch through a video. Take this video I did, for example, for the absolute power. This just all happened to work out because it was one of the last balls that we reviewed before I left Storm. So Angel and I had them to throw. I'd started doing videos for Zach and Tobias by then, and James just decided to drill one himself. So I had 5 bowlers to work with. Different layouts, different styles, some different surfaces. But as you watch all this through, does the ball really look that different for anyone? I hear all the time, well, I just don't get anything out of so-and-so's videos because I don't throw it like them. And I think that's one of the biggest issues or illusions that's either been pushed on people or that they've accepted, and I really don't get it. The power looks like the power, no matter who's throwing it. And please don't take this as me being condescending, but I just cannot fathom watching Angel throw it and then not being able to know or imagine what it would look like for Zach, or even watching James throw it and not being able to know what it would look like for me on the opposite side of the lane even. That kind of comment breaks my brain a little bit. It's like saying, can you show me this car in a different color because it's red and I can't imagine what it would look like in blue? All I'm seeing throughout all these people throwing the ball is the same ball reaction. No matter who's throwing it, it looks like an absolute power. Sure, it hooks more or less, or is sharper or smoother depending on who's throwing it, but the ball reaction itself makes sense and is what you'd expect for the different bowler styles. I still see the same ball throughout, and I can't process the idea that you can't watch any of these bowlers throw the ball and not be able to get or understand how that ball would react for you, unless you're watching the one whose game resembles yours the most. I'm really not being a dick or puffing my chest out or having an ego here. I'm just so far away from understanding that idea that it makes me feel like I have some kind of Rain Man thing going on. If you have to watch a bowler that throws the ball just like you to get a basic read on the ball reaction, then I have trouble believing that you could see differences in layouts or lane conditions or anything else that people think should be in reviews. I've already said way too much and not nearly enough at the same time, but hopefully you get the point. You as the viewer have to be as good as you expect the reviewer to be. Too many people expect ridiculous things out of reviewers, things they can't see and things they wouldn't do themselves if it was them that had to do it and pay for it. And too many reviewers forget that they're in the situation they're in for a reason. And regardless of the time, the money, and worrying about traffic and numbers, they still have a responsibility to the people watching the videos. I remember being broke. I remember spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on equipment and worrying about making sure the ball I'm about to spend a couple $100 on is the right one, and worrying about trying new layouts and praying they wouldn't brick something. And yeah, I'm pissed off that I've gone out of my way to try to give people what they want and walk the line between responsibility to the viewer, the companies, and myself, just to still get lumped in with all the idiots that are just farming you for traffic and the companies for equipment. And yeah, I want to sit here and tell you that I'm perfect and honest and unbiased and always make the right reads on equipment and will always give you the best advice, but I won't and can't. It's impossible. You will absolutely have a lot of people honestly tell you a ball's amazing just for it to suck mountain oysters for you. I've given a lot to bowling. I've missed weddings and funerals and 90% of the stuff my daughter did in high school, and almost went bankrupt saving the guy's pro shop just to still be called a typical ball reviewing shill by people who have no idea what they're talking about, no idea what it takes, no idea what's involved, and no idea what the reality would be if they did it themselves and how they'd still be seen or viewed or regarded regardless of how perfectly they did it. Now, I do have the best community on the interwebs, and I'll say that as loud as I can, as often as I can. And I know I'm just preaching to the choir here, but if you're a new viewer or somebody that just happened to click on this video, never seen me before, this is the reality. It's a give and take. There are some necessary evils and some hoops to jump through, but there are just also some things you have to look at through the right lens. A lot of us are just trying to do the best we can in an often rough and very imperfect situation. I get it from your direction. I just hope you'll try to see it from mine as well. I didn't mean for this to be a bitch session. I hope it didn't come across that way. I'm just trying to offer some information and perspectives so that when you still bitch about it on social media, you actually know what you're talking about for a change. Thanks for watching, and may the strikes be with you.